Welcome back to the Beyond the Wormhole series in Kerbal Space Program. For the past few episodes, I've been building this exoplanet colony ship in orbit and flying it out to the planet Suluco from the Kcalbeloh Planet Pack, which is a planet pack mod that places a wormhole around either Joule or Sarnis, depending on whether you have Outer Planets mod installed or not. Our colony ship arrived at Suluco in Part 2, and now, moving on to Part 3, I'll be using this SSTO colony cargo delivery system that I tested out in my South Pole episode, all the way through the wormhole to the Kcalbeloh system and to the planet Suluco to rendezvous up with the colony ship to be able to transport these modules down to the surface and deploy our surface colony. And so I've skipped the transfer out to Suluco for this cargo ship because it's the exact same maneuvers that it took to get the colony ship that's already in orbit to Suluco all the way there from Kerbin in Part 2. In Part 3, we're going to be transporting the modules down to the surface, like I said. And so here's my first kind of like deorbiting burn. I should also mention that I had to reloaded and re-switched the colony ship's orbit to a polar orbit because most of the resources on this planet are situated at the north and south poles. And we're going to be using some of these resources to refuel our cargo ship so that we can make multiple trips up and down into and from orbit to deliver our colony ship cargo to the surface. This planet is interesting because it's tidally locked, which means one side of the planet always faces the star at any given point in time, and it results in this interesting phenomenon where the back side of the planet is covered in ice, and the front side of the planet is a perpetual desert, as you can see, and there's a ring around the middle from north to south that's kind of liquid ocean where the temperature is just right that liquid water can exist, and this is called an eyeball planet. Eyeball planets tend to occur around smaller star systems like this one. This is the Sunorc system, which is a orange dwarf star orbiting the black hole Kcalbeloh, one of 3 stars in this planet pack, in fact. And it looks like we're just starting to break into the thick part of the atmosphere. Our speed is rapidly decelerating. I just switched on those air-breathing engines here. There is oxygen content in Suluco's atmosphere, which means we'll be able to run jet engines. And so I've actually picked out a landing spot previously along this ocean edge that I was talking about earlier. Right now I'm just flying along the coastline through these fjords here, looking for my landing spot that I picked out. I know it's along the South Pole coastline of the ocean ring, and I'm just trying to figure out where it is again. I think I'm fairly close. But yeah, I'm just flying around trying to find that right now. If you look towards the star in this system, you can see some other points of light in the sky. Maybe later on you'll catch that. But I'm pretty sure, well, I'm fairly certain that these are either other planets in the Sunorc system or the other stars that orbit the black hole Kcalbeloh. There's a binary pair of a blue giant and a red dwarf called the Aralk binary system, and then there's actually a brown dwarf system called the Maelg system that we actually visited recently in some of my other videos. If you want to check that out, it's pretty cool, pretty unique for Kerbal Space Program. That's why I love this mod so much. But I think we're getting close. Actually, this is the valley right here, or the fjord, whatever it is. I kind of picked it out because it's got this nice little peanut-shaped lake that could also serve as like a crash landing spot. But it's also a great marker for this relatively flat little strip of land that I'm going to be using to deploy my colony, or to serve as the spot for my colony. So I've just lowered the cargo ramp there, and I've undocked my first module, which is a communications station. It's got a telescoping radar dish, or not radar, but like communications antennas. I'll be showcasing that now. I got a hinge here, and I'll just rotate that out, and I have the piston here that can extend this arm and deploy those antenna dishes. And this second module is actually my refueling module. It's got ore drills and a fuel synthesizing, or ISRU, in situation resource utilization module that will be able to convert this ore into liquid fuel and oxidizer that we can use to refuel our cargo ship to get back up into orbit and rendezvous with the colony ship that has the other cargo pods that we're going to be using to reload this bad boy up and fly back down to our base here that we've established. But right now I'm just deploying those drills to mine the ore and the radiators to dissipate the heat. But I'll fast forward until I've refueled this thing. Okay, now we're done refueling the cargo ship. We'll just go ahead and back away this refueling station here and close the cargo door, and let's just wait until our orbit passes right over our base, and we will set the colony ship as our target, and then it'll have a marker pop up on our nav ball that we can use to follow into orbit upon takeoff to eventually rendezvous with the colony ship 65 kilometers above the surface in orbit above Suluco. Just trying to make sure that my inclination relative to the colony ship's orbit stays pretty low even on ascent. And we're really building up speed here. Let me correct that real quick, that inclination. Not too bad to correct while you're still in atmosphere. And now that I'm starting to run out of oxygen to power my air-breathing engines, I'll go ahead and switch on that closed cycle, which is now burning liquid fuel and oxidizer, technically on rocket mode here. And I'm just coasting up to my apoapsis here while I will complete another short burn just to circularize my orbit. And then we will go ahead and try to set up a rendezvous with the colony ship. And then we will be good to try to reload another module of surface-based colony parts, or I guess modules, to bring back to our base. Okay, now that circularizing burn is complete. Let's go ahead and set up that encounter in a few orbits. After we fix our inclination just slightly. And I'm just going to wait a few orbits just till those close encounter markers are right on top of each other, just to save a little bit of fuel. Instead of forcing an encounter, you can just kind of wait till your orbit just naturally drifts closer. That's what I'm doing here, waiting a few days in orbit till I drift close to the colony ship, which I am now about 2 kilometers out. I'll have to kill off my relative speed and then burn towards it, just like standard docking procedure. We're under 1 kilometer out, just a half a kilometer away. You can start to see those habitation rings there. Yeah, this is our craft from episode 1 and 2 of the Suluco Colony series. I'll just burn towards it. Try to go not too fast so I don't crash into it like I have been known to do in the past. And I'm going to have to eliminate that relative speed once again when I get a little bit closer. Alright, this is close enough for me, so I'll go ahead and kill my relative speed once again. Make a quick save real quick, because this could be bad. But let me detach my first, I guess I should say this could get hairy. I'm going to detach my first cargo pod from the colony ship that carries additional modules for our colony. And we're going to try to dock this thing inside of our cargo craft, securely enough that we can take it back down to the base. And so what I'm doing is just setting the docking port inside the cargo ship to align with the docking port on the cargo pod. And I'm just going to use RCS to translate across this short distance here, making sure that my prograde marker on my nav ball there lines up pretty close to my target, and keep my speed relatively slow so that if I do bump into something, it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, I'm going to actually have to blow out this fairing real soon, since the fairing won't fit inside the cargo bay. There we go. And we're going to make sure that our wheels for this cargo stack are facing the right direction so that they can roll alongside the bottom of the cargo bay once we've arrived. But yeah, this set of cargo includes a rover and a flight control tower that we'll be able to unfold and deploy that we can use to, I don't know, control our descents and ascents from our base using our SSTOs. Looks like we've successfully docked it to the cargo ship. Looks like the cargo's nested pretty good in there without any problems. Let me just auto strut it real quick so that it doesn't flap around on our descent. We close that cargo bay, and then we will wait till we are above the North Pole to do a quick deceleration burn to dip into the atmosphere about maybe, I don't know, 20,000 meters above, and hopefully that puts us down in the vicinity of our South Pole base here on Suluco. Looks like we're entering the atmosphere on the night side of the planet. Hopefully there's enough light for us to navigate. The gravity on this planet is slightly less than Kerbin's, so we don't have to expend as much fuel to stay in flight, but the atmosphere is relatively comparable to Kerbin's in thickness, so it makes flight a little bit easier actually than it is on Kerbin, in my opinion, or from what I can tell here. We're just crossing over into twilight, or the twilight zone, I guess you could say, of this planet, which is a permanent twilight zone. Now we're on the day side. The sun will never set as long as we're on this side of the planet. And I've set the colony as my target. You can see it down there, just about 24 kilometers out. Let's see if I can drop down right on top of it and get real nice and close to the colony here. Just barely skimming the water there. That's a pretty soft touchdown, if I do say so myself. That was pretty good. And here's the colony for our second delivery of cargo. Alright, let's try to roll these things out of here. So the wheels on these bad boys are super prone to breaking. So I've brought a ton of repair kits that I'll use an engineer to repair these wheels, kind of just almost built into my plan. And no matter how much testing I did, there was always wheels breaking on these things. So I rolled them out of the cargo pod bay there. But we can just use these packs. These like repair packs are like barely any weight, so I just carried a bunch of them. Here's our flight control tower. We're gonna go about unfolding this thing, or I guess rotating the tower up into position, and ejecting those, what were those, wheels there? Yeah, on the side, yeah, and then deploying our landing gear to keep that thing stable. But yeah, that's our flight control tower there. I'm actually really happy with how that design turned out. All these cargo module designs I actually tested out previously in my South Pole episode. But real quick, I think I should say, I was unable to undock the Rover from my cargo ship. I click on the docking port and there's just no option to undock. So I'm unfortunately going to have to, like, I can undock it, but it stays attached to the RCS module that I use to translate the cargo into, like, the cargo stack into the craft itself. But I can't detach it from the Rover, so we're gonna have to scrap the Rover from now. Maybe I'll just hack a Rover in at the end, because you never know. That's why you got a quick save in KSP. That there's sometimes glitches that you can't control. So we're gonna have to let go of it on a suborbital trajectory once I've kind of kicked my apoapsis out of the atmosphere. Now, once again, we're trying to rendezvous with the colony ship in orbit to pick up another round of cargo to deliver back down to the base. Let me open those cargo bays there and try to get this Rover out of here. As you can see, it's still attached to that kind of like RCS pod module that would kind of render this Rover inoperable. It won't be able to roll along the ground with that thing attached to its butt there. That's really unfortunate. It's actually a really cool Rover design. Maybe I'll hack it in later somehow, or cheat it in later, because that's not fair. I spent so long on this mission, guys. You don't understand. But here we are, rendezvousing with the mothership for our second round of cargo. And I'll be doing that same thing there. So like setting the cargo ship as my target and trying to align the docking ports like mutually so that it just makes docking a little bit easier. They're always trying to point towards each other on SAS, if that makes sense. And I'm just using RCS to span this distance here. Pretty cinematic over the North Pole here. We gotta blow that fairing out again, just like before, and rotate so that my wheels are gonna be able to run along the track of the cargo bay. Now these modules are gonna be our habitation units. They're kind of like little houses with wheels and landing pegs, and I've even built in a little porch on each of them with 2 external seats so that, you know, these Kerbals can make use of the wonderfully rare breathable atmosphere on this exoplanet, which I believe is only featured in one other planet in the Kcalbeloh system that is really uncomfortable probably for Kerbals on account of it having no land and crushingly high atmospheric pressures and gravity. So yeah, this is a great spot in the Kcalbeloh system for the Kerbals. The other planet that I was talking about is Rokeia. I don't know if you guys have known, but it's kind of an analog to that ocean planet with the giant like tidal waves right next to the black hole from Interstellar. But yeah, there's that planet, but this one's a lot more comfy is what I'm saying. For Kerbals at least, which is why I included the porches for them to hang out outside with their helmets off. And now we're starting our descent, which I guess is our 3rd descent now with this craft. It's really controllable in atmosphere. Oh, as I say, as it starts to spin out of control. No, but yeah, it's not too bad to control on descent. I guess that was a bad time to say that, but yeah, it's actually not too bad to fly, honestly. Sometimes bigger craft fly better. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, if you don't have like glitches. But it looks like our descent profile put us right down on top of our base, which is just a really accurate landing, which is nice. But yeah, I guess one of the drawbacks of this planet for a colony is that sun right there will always be in that position. So I guess all these Kerbals and their like circadian rhythms or whatever are going to be like really out of whack. The sun's never going to set, and that might be an issue for their sleep cycles. You never know what kind of effect that will have. So it's going to be an interesting experience for these guys. We just deploy this habitation module, and the same thing happens again, just like you can see, like once it like drops off that ramp, these wheels just like pop for some reason. But I'll use my engineer to repair them using the repair kits once again. Let's do that other one real quick. We'll repair those wheels. Okay, our base is starting to really shape up. I think we only have one more cargo delivery, which is going to deliver 2 additional habitation modules. And I think I have a crew of about 8 or 9 Kerbals total in this mission. And we also have a small shuttle cargo. No, it's not a cargo. It's a small shuttle SSTO that's docked with the colony ship that's going to be able to take them down after our final cargo delivery. But first I got to refuel this thing just like before. I'll just get that going and fast forward ahead until that is complete in just a second. Okay, we're ready to go again, all refueled. Let me back this thing away. Oh, but actually, it looks like when I was fast forwarding, all the wheels on my refueling station broke, so I can't even back it away from the cargo plane here. So Let me just back away and see if I can't turn enough on my takeoff that I don't smash it. It looks like we were able to avoid it. That's cool. And I did that thing once again where I wait till the colony ship is passing over the base in its orbital path, and then I set it as my target, and I just use that vector, that target vector on my nav ball to point my direction that I'm going to be taking on ascent to line up my orbit with the colony ship in order to rendezvous and dock. That's kind of a nice little trick if you're not, following just like the equator lines on a nav ball to get into orbit. Especially useful for these weird orbits like a polar orbit here. Okay, now we're in orbit. Let me set up another encounter after I adjust the inclination. And we'll wait a handful of orbits again, just so we can drift closer and closer just naturally over time, instead of having to spend fuel to force an encounter. But here we are, just over 1 kilometer out. You can see it in the bottom, the top left corner there. Let me burn towards the target so we can get our relative separation under a few hundred meters. And I have to kill off my relative velocity once again and get that final cargo pod all lined up for docking in the cargo ship. Let me detach that old RCS module there from our last delivery and line this thing up here. Oh, looks like I accidentally bumped into it. Let me pop this fairing real quick. And yeah, we just have 2 more habitation modules. Okay, looks like we're docked. Let me make sure everything is in order here. I'm actually gonna mess with the alignment here, rotate those to get those wheels a little bit more lined up with the cargo bay track, and close that cargo bay there. Let's do a quick save. And I'm gonna be figuring out my deorbit burn here up at the North Pole, so that we can start our descent down to our base at the South Pole. I usually kind of like aim for like a height of or a periasis of like 20,000 meters, which dips fairly deep into the atmosphere. That's just kind of been a good like ballpark for landing on top of my base here. But let me switch that mode to air breathing so that we can turn these engines on air breathing mode once I enter the atmosphere, and we'll start re-entry here in just a second. Almost losing control there. Looks like we just overshot the base. We just passed over it. Let me pop those air brakes open real quick, try to slow down. We're gonna have to backtrack here. Just fire up those engines and we're gonna fly over to the base here. Should just be like a couple kilometers away. Okay, I can start to see where the mouth of the fjord is. Let me see if I can just drop right in between these mountains here. And there's that lake there, just telling me just about where to start leveling out. Really like this landing spot. Alright, pretty good landing, not too bad. This thing has pretty terrible turning radius once it's on the ground, so I'm actually going to pick it up once again and try to re-land it, but I'll fast forward so you guys don't have to watch that. There I go, I got a lot closer this time. Let's go ahead and unload that cargo there, finish our base. I found it's easier to unload it if I actually just lower the landing gear. It creates like a less steep angle to roll these modules off that ramp. Trying to minimize the amount of wheel breakage that we got here. We had 2 break on this one just already. Cool, we got that one going. Let me just go ahead and deploy it here along kind of our little camp circle here. Alright, we just have one more. We got some more wheel breakage. Let me see if I can shimmy this thing off the ramp there. Repair those wheels. Gotta get them more packs. Okay. Now it's ready. Oh, bumped into it on accident. Alright, this is our base, guys. This are all our modules down on the surface. Hopefully it'll be fairly comfortable living accommodations for the foreseeable future, as Kerbals rarely tend to be rescued off the surface of planets once they get there. But here I am just repairing those wheels on my refueler. Oh, I gotta jump and catch on to that so I can get in before it rolls away from me. But yeah, now we're going to be swapping over to the colony ship in orbit and taking the majority of our colonists down from the colony ship down to the surface using a shuttle SSTO. They've been spending months in microgravity or like pretty low simulation of gravity in those rotating habitation rings. I think I have it spun up to like 0.25 Gs. So this will be a lot more comfortable once they get used to the higher gravity, a lot more like Kerbin. A lot healthier, I bet. But I've just completed that descent burn. Let me activate my engines so that they're ready to fire once I have my air breathing capability on in the atmosphere. I also really love this SSTO design. It's super sleek. I think it's like loosely inspired by a design I saw on Veos's channel. I don't know if you guys, you guys probably know about Veos. He's like legendary. He actually commented on one of my videos one time, which was awesome. That was like a dream come true. But yeah, kind of like the sleek, kind of like angled wing design. He had a craft like that. It inspired me to make this one. Okay, looks like we've slowed down enough to fire up our engines here and start flying towards our base. Just skirting above the surface of the water there at super high speed. It's a little nerve-wracking. A little bit of a bumpy landing there, but we spun out right on top of our base, which is awesome. Let me just taxi this thing over and we'll get our Kerbals unloaded. They'll be able to stretch their legs properly on proper ground with proper gravity for the first time in weeks, maybe months. I think years, actually. Alright, let's get them out. Gotta lower that ladder first, though. We can take off our helmet with the breathable atmosphere. I recently watched the Alien Romulus movie. Those alien movies are funny. They always take off their helmets first thing on an alien planet, which is maybe not the smartest, but as far as I know, bacteria is not a thing in Kerbal Space Program, or parasites, alien parasites for that matter, so we should be fine. Here I am just getting my Kerbals into their little lawn chairs on their habitation module porches or patios. But I actually did end up not hacking, that sounds bad, cheating, actually that's not a lot better, but I just kind of like spawned this cargo ship with a fixed rover down, since I had that glitch earlier where I wasn't able to undock my rover after I went through all the trouble of transporting it millions of kilometers away to another planet. But here's our base, finally done after all this time. On the surface of Suluco, you can see the black hole Kcalbeloh and several other planets or stars in this system in the day sky even. That's how bright they are. But yeah, really stoked on how this turned out. Before we go, we're going to go on a little bit of a joyride here with our rover. We'll take some of our Kerbals down to the water, or to the shore. We'll go for a swim, maybe do some science, plant a flag, you know, all the traditional KSP stuff. Can barely get off this ladder here. Oh. There we go. So hopefully this nice little surface colony outpost is going to be good enough for us for the next couple years. Let me just fire off a firework there to celebrate. Anyway, that's a cool view. The black hole in the day sky. You know, like when you're a kid and you see like the moon in the day and you're like, what? Think about these Kerbals wake up to the sun in the same exact position that it was when they went to sleep, with a black hole in the day sky. It's got to be a weird kind of living locale, if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go for a swim real quick. Take some screenshots, of course. Go for a swim. Water's cold, I bet. We're pretty close to the icy side of the planet. It says the water sample in the oceans has intriguing characteristics, has a lot of microorganisms and exotic plant life. You can read that and if you pause it if you want, but a lot of cool stuff. Looks like we discovered life as well in the waters of Suluco. That's looking like it's about a wrap for this episode, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. I've been on kind of like a month-long hiatus as I start a new job and go back to school. But yeah, looking forward to more regular uploads. But yeah, here's the base, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the series. In our next few episodes, we'll be completing the series, traveling to the black hole system and beyond. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you.